Hi, my name is Hadley Ockeltree, and I'm the Graduate Student Coordinator for the Speaker Series in the Department of Landscape Architecture and Environmental Planning. Thanks so much for attending. We're so excited that you're here. The mission of the Speaker Series is to engage with leaders in the allied design professions. We are proud of our students, faculty, and facilities, and wish to demonstrate our hospitality to our guest speakers, for whom we are grateful. These talks are recorded for posterity, for use in studios, and for the greater community. We ask you to be engaged during the talks, to listen, to quietly take notes, avoid digital distraction, and to stay for the entire 1 hour duration. A short Q&A will follow the talk, after which you can scan the QR code for attendance. It'll be on the screen. And then we'll meet in the common studio for a follow-up reception with some refreshments. As a land-grant institution, we would like to acknowledge that the Utah State University campuses and centers reside and operate on the territories of the 8 tribes of Utah. The Logan campus is situated on the Sihivigoi-Willow Valley, the ancestral lands of the northwestern band of the Shoshone Nation, where the Shoshone people have stewarded the land since time immemorial. In offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm Indigenous sovereignty, history, and experiences. And I'm now going to pass it off to Chris Wilson to introduce our speakers today.
I met Joy and Cheryl at the ASLA National Conference in San Francisco a few years ago. And I saw a session that they were conducting there at the conference, and I was immediately captivated with their topic, especially having been a teacher in my previous life. I had already learned that when we can get students playing, they forget that they're learning or doing work. And likewise, Joy and Cheryl taught me that when we can get designers and community members playing, they forget that they're arguing with each other. Or they forget that they're doing work. They're actually creating beautiful spaces and coming up with ideas together. So I'm really honored to introduce to you today Joy and Cheryl from PLAYCE Studio. Joy Kuebler is an award-winning professional with more than 20 years experience, with her work being recognized locally and nationally. Across her career, she has focused her work on the human experience in the landscape, integrating the outdoors and architecture to create unique and inspiring environments. She formed Joy Kuebler Landscape Architect, PC, in 2003 to have a positive impact on the quality of life for people through sensitive and responsible designs. Joy has insightfully adapted her firm's practice to foster the community's participation and understanding of their site and their community through a methodology she calls PLAYCE. PLAYCE blends the empowerment of play found in team building and social science with the vital design component of site analysis, creating unique community engagement and public participation for both public and private sector projects. In 2020, she launched a second company, PLAYCE Studio, as a training organization, bringing her unique community empowerment techniques to design professionals and students, as well as municipal and community leaders everywhere. Most recently, she co-published the whitepaper, Playful Placemaking, Community Engagement Using Social Science in the Design Process, in addition to bringing this methodology to various university programs across the United States. Cheryl Salazar has over 17 years in municipal leadership, including with the cities of Fontana and San Marcos and Riverside County, California. She has managed operations, programs, marketing, training, budgeting, commissions, nonprofits, and events over the years. She earned her master's in public administration from California Baptist University and is a certified parks and recreation professional. She has always had a passion for serving the community, and through PLAYCE Studio, she has found an innovative methodology to do so. Joy and Cheryl.
This afternoon, I am on this microphone. Cheryl is using her lifeguard voice.
Hi, everyone. Everybody can hear me okay?
All right.
Okay, great.
And she will have this microphone as the recording microphone. Yep. Right. Okay. Okay, great. So I'm going to do this first one. Yay. Okay. So we're going to share a little bit of a case study for a project that we did in Westminster, Colorado, which then will, so this serves as the launching point for tomorrow's workshop. So today you're going to hear a whole lot about what we did, how we did it, and some examples of what it looked like there in Colorado. And we will then tomorrow dive in deep and actually explore, pull apart, play all of these games, and then even have a little bit of time for you to step into trying on facilitating in the same type of games. Okay, so just as a little bit of like, what's all this about today? So we're going to share with you a case study, and then tomorrow we are diving deep and playing ourselves. Okay, all right. So Chris gave us a wonderful introduction, so we won't repeat all of that. Yeah. Okay. Great. We can just go past that. Awesome. All right. So Cheryl, tell us a little bit about Westminster, Colorado.
Okay, so in 2021, the Westminster Legacy Foundation was established to serve as a catalyst for well-being, health, and recreation in Westminster, Colorado. And essentially, they wanted to conserve sort of the legacy of what they felt Westminster had been and preserve that for future generations. And they were actually seeing a lot of divide between different community members. They were seeing an increase in Latinx population as well as an increase in the Hmong population. And only about 80% of residents have a high school diploma or GED in the area. So not a big higher education community. And in July 2022, there was an intentional arson done to a playground in a park. So not the full park. The full park was not damaged. It was intentionally just the playground. So as you can imagine, kind of a message and, ill will feeling in the entire community. So in late summer 2022, the city decided that they were going to do a round of engagement for replacing the playground. And that's where they focused. They didn't really focus on the rest of the park. They didn't really dive deep into activating the rest of the park or really understanding what potentially had caused the arson, right? What led up to this type of incident. And so in early 2023, the Westminster Legacy Foundation engaged PLAYCE as a way of looking into how they could prevent this happening in the future, right? They really felt that while the playground, the new playground was going to come in, they picked the design, they picked the theme, and that was going to happen, the community was sort of feeling like there was more that needed to happen, right? They're like, okay, great, we replaced the playground and we didn't do anything else. So what's stopping somebody from doing this again? And we didn't fix the problem that led to whatever the reason this person did this was. And so they really wanted us to come in and really get a feel for what the community was looking for in the rest of the park. And so because of the demographics in this area, they really weren't sure what that looked like. There was 2 different high schools in the area. There were elementary schools, a middle school. There's a swim and fitness center. There's a, senior community in the area, and a lot of different things going on. And even on the site, there was a community garden that was well loved and well used. There was a library there and a big open space of grass. But it's adjacent to kind of a busy street, and it really didn't feel like it was loved. It was well maintained, right? The Westminster Parks and Rec did a fantastic job maintaining the park, so it was beautiful, but it really was underutilized and underactivated.
Okay, so community engagement often relies on some traditional methods like surveys and public meetings, where sometimes we've got our microphone and we're kind of inviting people to come up to the microphone and just sort of speak what they would like for a few minutes. And it sort of has the intention that maybe design has already happened. The community is maybe feeling like, what's my role here? You're just going to do what you want to do anyways. And that, as a traditional model, has gotten us over the years to kind of where we are right now. And we've been, and there's inherent limitations and challenges to those things. The process can be often really intimidating, both for you as the future practitioners who are going to go out and lead that type of engagement, but also really intimidating for the people who are present, right? The community that has come out, right? What is my role? What am I supposed to be doing here? There's also often a disconnect between the value, sort of the science, the known value of why we do engagement, why it's beneficial, and then the actual practice of that engagement. So some of you who met me earlier today, I shared that I came out of university almost 30 years ago, very excited about community engagement, to hear my professional employers say, oh, we don't actually do community engagement. Now, a lot has happened in those 30 years, and we're now at a different place for that engagement, but our approach to that engagement is really not much different than the time it was in the 70s to the 90s. So the imbalance of power that often is present, whether it's the designers as all-knowing, the community, municipal leaders are just going to do what they want to do anyways, sort of a history of redlining and marginalizing communities, often leads to this sense of power struggle, power dynamic that is not easily just resolved in, I've got a microphone and I'm going to tell you what I want or don't want in this public space, or proselytize, sorry about that, that either you know what's good for me or you don't know what's good for me. So then we're often dealing with the bandwidth, the challenge of how are we enticing people to come out and actually participate with us. They're busy. They've got young kids. They're working, sometimes a couple of jobs. And so the bandwidth and capacity for their interest to come and participate is often a challenge. But we think one of the biggest challenges is actually not having a shared language. So architects speak architect-y talk, right? And the community doesn't speak that same language. The municipal leadership is often talking in municipal jargon. And so there is this space of when designers are trying to come from a place of an equal language, sometimes it lands over in the community as talking down to or not valuing a perspective, right? So how do we as designers change the way we speak versus in the community hearing us in a different type of way? So this is where play actually can be seen as an entrance point. So what if play could be the shared language, right? Every single human being on the planet plays, regardless of your culture, your language, your age, your background, your cognitive ability, or your physical ability. Every human being on the planet can play. So what we have found is that playing allows the language of the project to actually be generated together as part of the project. There is no architect-y talk, there's no community talk, there is no space of you don't hear me, you're not understanding me, or you're talking down to me. You're actually generating the language together through play. All right, so this is Dr. Stuart Brown, and he's one of my favorite friends. Dr. Brown is known as like the grandfather of play. He also created the National Institute of Play. He's a medical doctor, researcher, and all-around interest in how humans and animals use play from everything from problem solving to education, instruction, modeling, instinct development, right? The world of play is vast, vast place. And he wrote a really wonderful, easy to read book that's just called Play. And this paragraph for me was this like aha moment, right? So I'm gonna read it out to you, right? In play, we can imagine and experience situations that we have never encountered before and learn from them. In play, we create possibilities that have never existed, but that might in the future. We make new cognitive connections that find their way into our everyday lives. And we can learn lessons and skills without being directly at risk, right? To me, this is the entire design process wrapped up in a paragraph. We are inviting the community to suspend risk, right? To go to places where they are at risk, and in play, they can explore them with the safety of play. We're asking them to create a future that have never existed in their world, right? That highway going to a certain place or that park occupying a certain place doesn't exist in their world. As designers, we're trained in seeing how the built environment can look and get created in a very flat, drawing spatial environment. We know how to read that. Our communities don't know how to do that, right? So we're asking them to envision places that they have never envisioned before. In play, they could see that as possible, right? So play becomes this important language to build real, lasting connections that allow people then to be the champions of spaces that they want to create. All right.
So play as a tool is more than just fun, right? Play scientists, who might have some of the best jobs in the world, have identified these 13 primary benefits of play. And some of these might seem kind of outlandish, right? That we can experience this while we're playing games. But some of these things can really add to the public's or the community's experience with us in the design process. And some of the things here, like trust, are very central to what we're trying to build with the community in any kind of a process. So me as a municipal leader, right, having the community's trust, right, in Parks and Recreation, I have their children in my care, right? I have lifeguards that are saving their children's or their spouses or their grandparents' lives, right? I have their children in my programs. Their families come to our events. Their families are in my spaces. So they need to trust me. I need to build that trust with them. It's not just given freely, right? Anybody just automatically meet somebody and trust them with your life? How about with your wallet? Yeah, exactly, right? So thinking about a public meeting, how do you build that trust with people? And through play, we can make that happen, right? Another one is belonging, right? Having this feeling that you belong to one another, belong to and in a space, that's a space that community belongs to you, that you are a part of it. Through play, we can make that happen, right? In a very short amount of time. And that people belong in a process that is a design process when they're not designers, right? In a policy-making process when they're not policymakers. Through play, they can belong. Another one that we like to talk about is emotional regulation, right? Anybody ever seen or hear or experienced a public meeting where the feeling was palpable? You could feel the tenseness in the room, right? You could feel the fear that some people had. You can hear the quaking in someone's voice as they were trying to share their truth at the microphone about how their life would be impacted by something that somebody was proposing for their community, right? We all feel that. And through play, people can regulate their emotions so that they can actually get out what they need to get out, but also others can regulate their own emotions to be able to meet those people, meet their new friends, meet their new community where they are, and understand that that person is coming from their own individual experience, right? And we can emotionally regulate to really get a sense of where people are coming from and how their lives are going to be impacted by the decisions that we make. Do you guys think that that's important for policymakers and designers to understand? Yeah, yeah. So all of these are available to us anytime that we play. And so in the PLAYCE methodology, we use these 5 types of play. So movement play, right? Pretty obvious. Running, jumping, dancing, right? Spinning around, doing all kinds of different movement, right? But this can be as simple as walking up to a podium, walking up to a table, right? Shaking someone's hand is movement, right? Object play, when we tinker around with things, when we hold up a card, when we share something together, We're manipulating an object, and those things can really make an impact for people. Storytelling and narrative play. Storytelling has been around forever, right? As well as all of these other ones. But storytelling tells us how we make sense of the world, right? We're constantly trying to make sense of what's happening around us. And we do this through stories that we tell ourselves, that we tell our family members, our friends, right? And this is how we explain what's going on in the world. And so this is very important. Creative play is where we get out what's in our brains, right? We take what's on the inside and we put it out into the world. And it might mean something to one person, might mean something else to somebody else. But it's creative, it's expressive. It gets out the feelings and the emotions that you're feeling inside. And social play, this is when we're building connections with others, right? We're playing alongside our friends. We might not be technically playing together, but we even get the social play aspect and benefits when we're sitting next to each other in parallel play, but more so when we're actually doing something together and creating or, fighting the dragon to save the princess. All those types of things are social play. And we use all of these different types of play throughout the methodology, which Joy's going to share next.
All right, so PLAYCE process, right? So this is sort of design process in play. So typical community engagement would have resulted in most likely a public meeting of some kind, right? So you're dealing with how do you get people to come to the meeting, right? Splashy advertisements in unique places. Maybe you're offering food, ways to entice people, right? But in the community conversation methodology that we talk about is, could you have that public meeting where the community is all rather gathering? Going to where they are rather than inviting them to come to you. Now, there's still an important role of inviting them to come to you, right? A lot of projects have sort of a framework or a structure that's either formed by the government or formed by the funder that says you need to have a public information meeting and it needs to look a certain way, right? So that is still a requirement. The community conversation allows you to go further than that. Imagine that your public meeting could be at the Little League baseball tournament. Maybe it is at the farmer's market. Maybe it's at the grocery store next to the milk. Maybe it's on the sidewalk, right? Places where people are active in their normal everyday life, and you happen to come across you, right? So that idea of going to where the people are to have a 2 to 3 minute conversation that's grounded in sort of blue sky thinking, right? What's the most impactful Main Street you've ever experienced? What makes a downtown vibrant, right? What would have a place be people-friendly as opposed to just pedestrian-friendly? What makes it people-friendly, right? 2 to 3 minute conversations with lots and lots of people from lots and lots of backgrounds. The next one is a site analysis tour. Now, as landscape architects, you all understand that site analysis is really key to everything that you will do as a designer. If you are not critically looking at that place, you will never successfully design for it. Our community members are really, really familiar with their own places. So much so, much more than we alone as landscape architects could do. So you are already going to go analyze that place. Invite the community to come with you. Ask intriguing questions. How might this place sound in the future? How would it smell in the future in a way that would bring economic development? Right? What are noises that we might have to mitigate if we were to get the most exciting design we could ever think of here? How might we have to fix the noise that we just generated? Right? Now, the other thing that happens here is that we want to invite all of the stakeholders. In a very traditional model, you have stakeholder group A, stakeholder group B, stakeholder group C, and as professionals, you might be asked to go talk to each one of those groups. Now, you've heard everything that they have had to say, but they have not heard each other. As designers, you're going to be trying to compromise and find some resolution that will work for this group and this group and this group. And I will tell you that most likely that compromise will not be really well regarded by any of those groups, right? They're all going to say, you didn't hear me. And I'll say, no, I heard you. Unfortunately, you did not hear one another. And what's important to you is in direct opposition to what's important to this group, right? So by putting all of those stakeholders on that walking or biking or boating tour together, you're getting to talk about those issues in real time. Now, the other thing that happens in site analysis is the team is out there, like today, in the snow or whatever the situation is. We're looking at it right now. Oftentimes, the community or the municipal leaders are coming from a place of nostalgia. They remember it being a certain way. We spend a big time of our meeting just like, no, this is the photos from yesterday. This is what it looks like now, right? They're coming from a place of how it used to be, or an image of how they would like it to be that might not match its actual condition today. Okay? So seeing it together in real time also allows you an opportunity to start problem solving as you walk, as you bike, as you boat. Now, you want to do all those things at a human scale, right? We drive through, we can see, we can overlook all of the problems and all of the challenges because we're moving at 30 miles an hour. When you are walking, whew, you see everything, right? And it's an opportunity to have a conversation. Now, team building games is a big part of what we do. And we have games at every single stage and every single level. And we're going to walk through the case study and we'll share with some of those. And then the last piece that we talk about is trying it on. Now, you have heard the term tactical urbanism. Is that something that you guys have heard? Okay, so tactical urbanism can work at a variety of scales. So we call this trying it on because we might do it at a up close and personal scale with things like boxes and buckets and pool noodles and hula hoops that can become tactical objects that we move around with the community. We might work at a tabletop level, which is what we're going to do tomorrow, where everything in the room becomes part of our pretend play. And then we might do it at a scale of big tactical urbanism where we've blocked off the street, we've created the bump outs, we've painted them, and then we've programmed it in a way that people can come and experience this new design before we've constructed it, gauging their feedback. How does it feel? How does it sound? I wasn't expecting that. That's something new, right? So that trying it on place is pretend play, it's object play. But we're doing it and can do it at a variety of scales and opportunities throughout the design process. All right, sound good? Okay.
All right, so now we're going to take what we covered and apply it to Westminster, Colorado, and to Irvin Street Park. And when we teamed up with them in a way that we call consultant as trainer. And what that means is our objective was twofold. One, we needed to help them engage with the community, right? So that's the consultant part. But we were also training the Westminster Legacy Foundation's executive director and the City of Westminster's park planner in this methodology, right? So they were learning in real time and helping us facilitate these games. Right, so they were interacting with the public as well as learning how to do this type of engagement in the future on their own. So they didn't have to keep paying us time and time again, right? Each time they wanted to engage with the public. And so when we did that, we developed a series of workshops, and we wanted to really surmise what the community was feeling about this space, what was the current relationship with this space, and how might they wish that relationship shift and change or transform into the future, right? What were they envisioning as what they wanted activated in this new space, right? The City of Westminster had really no idea what the community would ask for in this space, which is sort of a little bit different. Coming from the municipal government world, we like to think we know all the answers. We know what's best for the community, and we are the experts in what the community wants and should want and need, and we can see into the future and read all their minds, right? No. And you as designers, right, you have all the answers. You know all the best design solutions, right? You know what the community should want. You know what's best for them in this design. You see the site analysis of a facility, and you know exactly what needs to happen there to make it the best, most innovative, state-of-the-art new park that's going to just wow and win all the design awards, right? Yeah. So, exactly. Exactly, right? So every community is different, every park is different, every neighborhood is different, right? And coming out of such a traumatic event as arson to their playground, they were still reeling almost, I think it was 9 months later when we were able to meet with them. And they weren't sure what they would want. And they were kind of uncertain about what the factors were that really led to this, right? Each person was coming to these meetings, to these workshops, with their own idea of how this came to happen in their community. And nobody really had the truth, right? Nobody was there, right? The person that committed the arson was never caught, so the community really didn't have any answers to why this happened or what should we do about it, right? And so what we were there really to do was to help the City of Westminster and the Westminster Legacy Foundation really listen to the community. And we had this unique opportunity where the City of Westminster was very open to what the community might want. They didn't really have a master plan for this park, right? It was just there in existence and fine with the status quo of that particular facility. It was going along just fine, right? Public Works was very happy maintaining this pristine turf with nothing in the middle, right? And so thinking about that, right, it was a unique opportunity for us to really figure out what the community wanted, how they wanted it to be implemented, and what they wanted those impacts and outcomes to be long into the future. Oh, and sorry. So these are some of the questions. We're not going to go into them because you're probably already well versed in some of these. But when you're planning how you want to engage with the community, these are some questions that we think about when we're trying to figure out what approach we want. And we kind of have a little bit of a standard approach since we've been doing this a while. Well, Joy's been doing this a lot longer than I have. But these are some of the things that we think about in terms of what's going to benefit the community most and what's going to lend itself to establishing a good relationship and a good connection with the people that we're going to be working with during this process.
All right, so we got started. We flew in for 4 days, and we did workshop 1, a morning session and an afternoon session, and then workshop 2 the next day, morning session, afternoon session. So we are essentially running the same workshop 2 times, but 2 different groups of people participating. So we started off with our introduction game. So this is an opportunity that we think is one of the best ones when we start to think about what is the purpose of having the meeting. And building relationship is one of the things that is often really overlooked from a design perspective, right? Why are we having the meeting? Well, we need to know about the site. We need to know kind of what they want, what is the utilities that are feeding it, right? All of the what's-is, but we're not often thinking about the relationships. So creating an opportunity to start the meeting, very first thing with, who are you? Who is in the room, right? Not just who is in the room, but how would you like to contribute to this project? So this is a game that we call Roles and Contribution. And so the way that it goes is that we have one of our handy cards. So if those have played with us earlier today, you saw some of these cards, and we'll play a lot tomorrow. But you'll have 3 decks here for the department. So utilize these. So each person selects a card that represents how they see their role on the project. You're going to have people who will say, like, my role is going to be I'm willing to be the risk taker. I'm willing to be the person who goes to council and say, this is what the community said, I'm going to fight on your behalf. You have another person who says, I'm not creative, but I'm a doer. Tell me what you need done, and I will help round up people. I will help round up items. I will help get people to places, right? I'm your doer person, right? Now, why is this important? Why do we care? Anyone have any idea about why this one might be important? Very rarely does the community have an opportunity to say how they want to contribute in a design project that's being done to them, right? I would like to contribute in this way. I see my role on this project being this. They are immediately advocates. They are champions for this project. They are not going home to complain because they have a role, they have a job to do, and they decided what that job was. Now, in this game, they also introduce themselves to one another in a really unique way. How many have played the game like telephone as a little kid? Does that sound familiar? Right? Where you whisper into another person's ear, and then they whisper the thing that they heard. So in this roles and contribution game, you select a card, you introduce yourself, and then you swap cards with the person that you're playing with. And you have had to listen really closely to understand what the other person said was important to them, and be able to then go to a third person and introduce the other person that you just met. Now, why do we think that is important? Most of the time, people in the room think that they are alone. They came there alone. They think their interests are alone, right? They're not related. Right? But the other important thing is that most of the time, people are just waiting to talk. They're not paying attention to what other people are actually saying. How many of you have go around the room, you meet everyone, you get their names, and then you have completely forgot before they have even finished saying what they do? You're like,
Except that everybody in the room is going to be a landscape architect, so you won't forget.
Yes, that one you won't forget, right? So if you are being requested to really listen to the other person, you're not so concerned with what you're saying, but you're really listening to what the other person is saying. Now we have set up a meeting that's really, really different. Okay, so this is our first game. Second game, community identity. Now we all come from places that have identities, right? So you're not far from Las Vegas. We all have, Las Vegas, Sin City, right? Which we know to be different than Los Angeles. We know to be different than Seattle. We know to be different from Vancouver. So we had a whole studio that talked about Vancouver today. We had a guest, right? We have identities of places, and we relate to our place from that identity. So this activity says, all right, tell us what that identity is, right? Let's gain some consensus around that identity. Now we go into what identity do we think we might want to live into? Which is not what identity do you want now, right? Because our current identity might be bad. It's just our identity. An identity that we might want to live into. Now that's where designers and planners can help us. We'd like to have this. That identity is something that we could grow into. Designer says, I can help with that. Now that I know the identity that you'd like to have, I can get you there. All right, next game. All right, 4 magic question games. So how many played 4 magic questions with us today? Show of hands. Wow.
I think more of you guys.
I think more. Yeah. Maybe you don't remember that game, right? All right, so the 4 magic question game. This game is about an action plan in 15 minutes. An action plan in 15 minutes. Sometimes we think we have to have 10 meetings with people to get to what they want to do, right? What if you could do it in 10 minutes? 15 minutes at the most, right? This question's, what's holding us back? And by playing in a game, the safety of a game, we're willing to be at risk. We're willing to say, here's what I think is really holding us back, right? The municipality doesn't care about us. What's holding us back is that we're not responsible to one another anymore. I don't care about my neighbor, right? Inside the safety of a game, they're willing to say that. Next question, what could be possible? You want me to imagine my possible future? I don't know, right? Inside the game, anything is possible. And boy, what could be possible starts flowing. Third question, what's it going to take to have that? That's the action part. Wow, we might have to all participate together. We might have to come to have some harsh, conversations and develop a strategy that we can all get on board with. The municipality might have to really listen to what the community says it needs. Those are things that we might have to take action around. And then the last question, what partners, tools, or resources do we see we need? Communities can't do this by themselves. You can't do this by themselves. Individuals can't do it by themselves. In partnership, we can accomplish a lot. And we tend to have a very narrow view of what those partners are. Inside the game, wow, we think about partners that we had never considered before. And we could actually call those people up and say, would you like to be our partner in creating something? Inside the safety of the game, we have that. All right. Workshop 2, this is Cheryl.
Yes, workshop 2. So we realized that even though we invited all of our previous players to come back for the second workshop, the second day of workshop, we had some new players. So they needed to get into the habit of playing and what that feels like, right? So we did a different introduction game that asked them, what do you love most about Irving Street Park? And then the second round, we played, what would you change about Irving Street Park? And so with this, we really got to see what people were essentially unwilling to let go of, right? What would kind of break their heart if they lost, and what could really improve their quality of life. And so the community then was able to find alignment amongst each other, right? Again, just like roles and contribution, they were able to become related to one another and really see that they were not alone in what they wanted. And so this next one is the cover story game. And this is where we dive into the future impacts of what the changes that we wanted to make to Irving Street Park would create in our community, right? What ripples of change, what ripples of outcomes would we see throughout our community? 10 years into the future, what is our community, how is our community different than it was before we did all of these changes to Irving Street Park? And how have the people here changed, or our relationships changed? What is different? And so this really allows them to see their mission and vision very clearly for their new activated park, right? And it also allows them to set it as, a benchmark that they can measure anything else against, right? Anybody ever hear of scope creep, right? All the pretty new, fun, shiny things that come along during the design process, right? People that sell things, essentially, will hear that you're creating this brand new, amazing park, that you want to do amazing, cool new things in your community. They're like, well, why don't you do this? And why don't you do this? Oh, and by the way, we make those, so you could buy it from us. And you're like, wow, that's cool and new and shiny. And wouldn't it be great? Westminster could be put on the map for having this new fun ninja cross obstacle course. Sounds great, right? But does it meet the mission and vision that the community set as what they wanted, right? So having this mission and vision clearly defined by the community and generated by the community actually helps you as designers eliminate scope creep and eliminate all these new fun, shiny things that might be cool, but it wouldn't really do what the community really needs this space to do for them. So it doesn't really fit in this space, so it wouldn't really work out. And the community wouldn't love and be able to be a champion for this new space like they would have if you would have stuck to the mission and vision. And sometimes you'll find a new shiny thing that is kind of like, ooh, maybe that would fit the mission and vision. Should we include it? So you go back to the community and you benchmark it against the mission and vision that they set forward, and they get to decide, do we include this new fun, shiny thing? Does it fit with our mission? And if it doesn't fit with what we said we wanted, should we kind of go back to the drawing board and readjust and see what our new mission and vision could be now that we know about this new fun, shiny thing? And the last one is collaging. Yes, collaging with magazines and scissors and glue sticks, right? We did all of those things with this community. And what we asked them to do was collage their most perfect future in this space. Who are they there with? What are they seeing? What are they smelling? What are they doing, right? Do they taste something interesting there, right? There's a community garden on site, but does that get expanded, right? What are they hoping to do there? How does this new place make them feel that might be different than how it makes them feel now, right? What would they potentially tell other people about this new fun and exciting Irving Street Park that they've developed. So they share their individual priorities on their own collage, and then in the next part of the activity, they narrate that to a partner, right? I might say, I want community, I want a water feature, I want, a little sacred nook that I can curl up and read a book and feel safe and, sheltered from the outside world or sheltered from the elements, right? And so Joy, being my partner, would write down all of these themes on different sticky notes, and at the end of my narration, I'd have a nice fat stack, right? And each person would end up with a stack of stickies that represent the themes from their collage. And we would put them together on a frequency matrix and really find alignments and see how many other people wanted a water feature, how many other people wanted a little sacred nook that they can curl up in, right? How many other people wanted, a ninja cross obstacle course. I don't work for them, don't worry. I don't get commission. That's just what's coming to mind right now. So they can directly see in visual form on the wall, right, of stickies, where their vision for this new space really fits in with their community, and they can come to a consensus on what this new space really looks like as it benefits everyone at the community, right? And we've spent all of this time building up the relatedness, the belonging, the trust, the empathy, right? We've been working on building all of these benefits of play together. So now we're related. Now we're connected, right? I want you to have all of the things that you want in your new park. And you, and you, and you, right? Just like you all want me to have all of the things I want in my new park. And so that really creates that consensus around what it really looks like to have a shared space in our community.
Okay, so what came out of this experience, right? So we wrapped up our workshop, and what we had heard from the community was that this space should be really nature focused, which had not been something that Westminster was expecting. They could see all the beautiful mountainsides from the area space. They knew they were replacing this playground. It was adjacent to the library. So they had some activation, but the community really wanted that space as like nature focused as opposed to urban park, right? So that was an unexpected thing. Then they also felt that this was a place for multi-generation. So you saw a lot of like older ladies collaging, right? So they were talking about wanting to have spaces for themselves as well as their grandkids. They wanted to be able to go at the same time, do things that would benefit them as well as the grandkids, as opposed to only being grandkid focused, right? Fitness and amenities were a big part of their own experiences that translated out to experiences that other people could also benefit from. As we mentioned, there was a community garden on the site, but the garden seemed to have its own identity separate from the rest of the park. The group started to talk about, could we actually be more engaged with the community garden rather than just the 10 people who tend that garden? Could it be more available to the whole community? Do we have programming around cooking inside the library where we can take food from the garden and actually do something with it together, right? As part of family community togetherness. So enhanced community involvement, the increasing in their trust and collaboration, collaborative problem solving, and a real legacy of community champions, right? Okay, so now the next one is the intangible. So Cheryl's going to cover this one.
Yeah, so some of the intangible outcomes, and I'll just touch on some of these. So the woman here in the hoodie, right, this is Angelica, and she is a Spanish speaker. So she's never really been able to share anything about what she would like to see in her community. And she is like the second person sort of in command at the community garden, right? So she's very involved in the community, but has never really had a chance to voice what she thought could be beneficial for the community at any public meeting, even the ones for replacing the playground. And so we had some live active translation happening where the translator was able to go and sort of play along next to Angelica and translate in real time Angelica's responses to the games. So Angelica got to play in real time with other community members and build that relationship, even though there was a language barrier. May was actually one of the translators. She grew up in the neighborhood, and she was from the Hmong community. Her mother, brother, father, and her sister all still lived in the community, even though she moved to the town nearby, right? So she got hired to translate this meeting and was like, okay, cool, what's it about? After the first meeting, she called up her mom, her brother, her dad, her sister, and other friends and said, this is too important to miss. They're giving the Hmong community a voice, and you need to be here to represent us. And so her family was able to also have a voice, right? And so they came and played along as well. We had some unexpected connections. There was an older gentleman and a younger gentleman collaging next to each other and found some common interests. And the older gentleman, I forget what he was trying to give the younger gentleman, but it was something from his garage, and thought that it would be super useful to the younger gentleman, and it was very valuable, right? I think it was like a miter saw or something, right? Kind of a big piece of equipment. And the younger gentleman was like, whoa, I can't accept that. Like, we're strangers. Like, I met you 25 minutes ago, right? And the older gentleman is like, no, we're neighbors, right? We're connected now. Like, we're going to be friends. And through, a 3-hour workshop, they made that connection, right? And have this new found relationship. And then we had some teenagers who got out of class to come to our meeting, right? Extra credit for like their student government class or something. And in the break during the first meeting, they were like, oh my God, should we leave? Like, this is weird. This is not what we expected. Like, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know what we expected, but this was not it, right? Well, they came back after the break and kept playing. And then at the end of the meeting, they said, so is it going to be the same tomorrow or is it different? And we said, oh, we're playing different games tomorrow. And they said, oh, okay, can we bring friends? Right? So transforming them from people that were just like, I don't know if we should even stay, to can we bring our friends in teenagers, right? The hard population to reach, right? And they were excited to come back and return and bring their friends along. So just some of the intangible outcomes that happen from playing.
The hugging of the translators.
Oh, yes. As we were wrapping up the meeting, on the second day, the translators came over and they were both like, well, May obviously was very excited that her family, her Hmong community was able to be involved in this. So she was very excited. I think she was a little teary-eyed that they were able to be so involved. And then the Spanish translator, who had just been translating the whole time, we didn't really get to know her a whole lot. She was very focused on her job. She came over right before she left and said, thank you so much for doing this. I've never been a part of translating anything so meaningful. And she gave us both hugs. And that was just really incredible to us. Like, I felt really good.
Okay. So, where to begin? Where can you begin? Playful placemaking.
Yeah. So first off, you want to invite people to play. Right? You want to invite people into this process. Go to where they are so that they can and are able to play. And then you want to explore your site with all of these new found friends that you have, right? And then you want to play, but you also really want to listen to what they're saying as they're playing. Share your concept of what their vision is. Right? Designers, you might come into this space, right? You've got to respond to an RFP. So you're already putting a proposal in play, right? You're already putting your ideas out there on what this space might become, right? So you've got to transform what you thought the vision was to what the community's vision is. Then you're going to try it on. Right? Some of that low-key tactical urbanism or even big-key tactical urbanism, especially if your mission and vision and design concepts really feel tangible, like the community is really there together on what it is that they want. Maybe go big. maybe go big, throw a party, right? Throw a concert, do all kinds of cool things for the community to really show them how special this new space could be. And then design from the data, right? Throughout this whole process, throughout all of these games, you're collecting data on what the community wants, and it's going to tell you and inform you what your design should look like. And then you're going to prioritize next steps, and you can also do that with the community. They can also tell you what's their highest priority and what's some low-hanging fruit that might get you some early wins to really create some momentum to drive the rest of the project forward.
So where else can you place? Where else can you play? You can play with your classmates. You can create better, stronger class group projects, right? You can also take this into your office with your coworkers when you have coworkers, right? This is a tool that can be used across supervisor to staff, to your fellow coworkers. Say you are maybe also part of another organization outside of the world of landscape architecture. You're part of a board or a community nonprofit, something like that. ASLA is a pitch for ASLA, right? So these are skills and tools that you will take to every relationship that you have. Now, in this world, right, you might also be in the space of neighborhood building. That is nothing quite yet ready for building a project, but maybe it's around creating consensus with communities around, would you like to build something? Is there a space for expansion in the community? Something that could be added to support your quality of life. That then maybe you seek a grant or an opportunity to support that thing that you've heard now from them. And then in the actual project building. So we kind of walked you through a visioning process, right? It is also really valuable around stewardship and grant funding, right? The opportunities that you learn through this methodology in the playing and the activities are beautiful in terms of creating the story, the narrative that allows others to say, this is a great project and we want to fund the project, right? And then in that organizing building, right, addressing quality of operations, building trust and relatedness across your organization into your boards and nonprofit world, creating recruitment for your organization, recruitment for the department, right? Maintaining faculty. I think you all guys had reviews today. There were some reviews today, right? So how are you utilizing these methodologies to support your fellow faculty members to be strong practitioners, strong educators, and then collaborative across your recruitment and then succession of those as an organization. Creating project efficiencies where the project and the community can actually become investors in the success of an organization or success of a project. So every single place that you have a relationship can get enhanced and supported through play. Awesome, I think that's it. Q&A. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Joy and Cheryl. We're going to open it up for a couple quick questions. So yeah, go ahead and raise your hands if you have a question. We're going to go to Benji.
So what does that park in Westminster look like now?
Yeah.
So they're still working out a lot of the details. They had a lot of ideas around activating the space, and they were actually trying on for a summer. Last summer, they tried on having a ropes course. So like a high level ropes course that they had. And then the summer before was a trapeze. Yeah. So they're open to new ideas, right? They haven't decided on anything permanent, which is kind of fun and exciting. Each summer they've had a new park.
The ropes course.
Awesome. Yeah.
You mentioned that in Westminster, they did not have any like master plan yet, so they had a lot of freedom to explore. Have you had experiences where there are existing master plans or general plans or other things that seem like a hurdle to the community feeling free to explore, and how do you address that?
Yes, so I'll address that one, or I'll jump in here at this point, and then Cheryl can add if she wants. So sometimes that master plan has been generated, and oftentimes the community might have a feeling of, I wasn't a part of it, right? And so partly through the activities, they are able to either identify like, oh, I actually am on board with the direction of the master plan, and or the activities reveal gaps that the community then can strengthen or support elements of the master plan. So the greatest thing about the activity is that usually the big picture stuff is able to be strengthened and facilitated, that the community wants. The master plan and what the community says are not actually that far apart. And the nuance of what the community is saying adds depth and direction to the master plan, that those pieces then now can be prioritized and followed through in ways that are really meaningful and touchstones, as opposed to just sort of the big idea stuff. Yeah. I've not actually experienced where the master plan was so far off that the community wanted to throw the whole thing out.
In my experience as a municipal leader, most community members, I mean, there are a few that come out to like every public meeting or at every city council meeting or watch the recording. And there's the majority of the rest of the community members that have no idea what a master plan is, right? They only see master plan as it pertains to master plan subdivision communities, right? They don't really understand what a master plan is or what it means about a specific site, right? And so a lot of times they've never heard of it and they don't really feel constricted. It's really more the municipal leaders that feel constricted to do that because they went out to the community to help them inform that master plan maybe 20 years ago, right? But the community members that were a part of that plan many years ago aren't even there anymore, right? The community has changed, the demographics of their community have changed, and so the needs may have changed. And so sometimes, even though there's a master plan for a park, the municipality may feel that this new engagement sort of dictates that they do need to change what their vision was for that park. And so they may adapt the master plan in that instance, or they may not allow, they may tweak the process not to be so free-flowing as Joy and I kind of shared as Westminster is, but it may be a little bit more constrained into more of the what's, right? Like, what kind of playground do you want? Or what kind of this do you want? Or what do you want on your trail system? Versus like, what could this blank slate be? And how could it impact your quality of life?